So here we're going to talk about, again, everything's going to be in this first way. If you remember from the previous class, Introduction to DevOps, first way, second way, third way. We're talking about the pipeline. So the pipeline requires you to think about the visibility. All stages of the pipeline are visible to everyone responsible for delivery. So that's a key point, right? Like if you've done this right, security, I mean, if you're, again, this is advanced. I don't see many companies that do security network and dev and ops all combined in the pipeline in terms of visibility and delivery and automation. But that's where we need to get to. You know, all the switch configs actually in Git, Cucumber testing on network stuff on the back end, emulating network software environments like SDN environments, right? A lot of that stuff's out there. The DevSecOps will cover that in a little bit, but the point is everybody's responsible. Everybody should see the pipeline. We've talked about the feedback loops. There should be design gates to create and eliminate downstream defects. Like you find things downstream, you move those checks early. You have test-driven development and behavior-driven development and smoke tests and the DevSecOps. You have also you vulnerability scans, static code analysis. Again, at the end of the day, you start building these incredibly robust these chains of delivery. So you're continually deploying. You've got it so the pipeline is such that any patch, any update, new feature can be automated and deployed for release. One of the things I talk a lot about, we're not going to talk about it much here, but in the previous class, I like to really use the terminology of services and application and things that are really a service. Stay away from the kind of product and project. The service has a kind of a life that exists. Also, again, later when we get into kind of artifacts in a later chapter, but we'll talk about like binaries, artifacts, components, packages, artifact repository, package repository. Again, a lot of this ground covered pretty heavily in the previous class. Also, this stuff is covered pretty extensively in Tom and Chelly's work, and then also Humble and Farley's work in the continuous delivery. And Damon Edwards at DevOps Enterprise Summit 16, if you Google, we'll have some links, but DOS 16, Damon and I did a presentation on high performers and what their SDLC, software development lifecycle, just another word for continuous delivery pipeline. The interesting point here is it's kind of what you'd expect. It's Git, it's Jenkins. There's some kind of package management, and there's artifact, in this case Nexus. Damon has a great product called Rundex from an operations console and control, and then the delivery is either chefing it or pupping it, or it's containerized. Maybe the whole pipeline is containerized. But the important point, if you look at the top, right, they're kind of the same people. So go back to everybody's responsible, right? Like we're not like siloing. Everybody's kind of in the game. That means if you're a dev, your ops, your sec, your network. You're basically putting everything in source control. You're building in your kind of integrated tests. You're basically making sure on the back end you've got things like behavior driven for network stuff, behavior driven for security. There's a project called Gauntlet that is using Cucumber and things, calling an Nmap or things like that in the network world, right? So really, really interesting stuff. Again, this slide just reinforces this thing about the gates and the automated feedback. We've covered it. But in the last class, we spent a lot of time. In this course, the labs are kind of based on the same thing. There's a lot of, there's the Jez Humble, Farley book, and then there's what Damon Edwards and then Tom Limoncelli has followed too. I just tend to like this model, although they all get us to the same place. So here I'm staying consistent with this kind of 2x2 infrastructure, and application, so kind of going up the, on the upper left you got the application, bottom line you got infrastructure, and then we've got kind of our flow of build and deploy, and we'll kind of break things up in this chapters into kind of build, deploy, operations, and whatnot. So and here again we're talking about kind of the build phase being source control, the build console or the continuous integration server, the package repository is kind of your building artifacts, things like Nexus or Artifactory, and then deployment page is how do you get things in either Chef or Puppet, or you're using kind of immutable delivery, which would be something like Docker or containerization. But my favorite brand is Docker.